It's Kurt. So I took this class called Philosophy of Mind one time, and I had to write a final paper, and I wrote my final paper about machine functionalism, which is the idea that the brain is the Turing machine. But I did a twist on machine functionalism because machine functionalists describe the Turing machine as not a deterministic Turing machine, and I said, well, if the machine functionalists want to get it right, we're probably closer to a non-deterministic Turing machine. And I don't have the paper, but I do have the sketch of my paper that I sent to my professor to get feedback on. So I'm gonna read the sketch of my paper because that's all I have. I don't have the charger for my computer, my school computer, and it's dead, and I don't know where it is, so I can't retrieve the paper. The paper is longer than necessary, but still not as long as it was supposed to be, so this is a better thing than what I have. Anyway, so I'm going to read it. The topic was why the non-deterministic Turing machine is the perfect computational model of the mind for machine functionalists. Alternatively, how the mind seems to be computationally equivalent to a non-deterministic Turing machine. Brief introduction to functionalism, machine functionalism, and why it seems to correctly describe the mind as a set of causal relationships. Functionalism seems to work well with the Turing machine model of computation due to the input-output and internal roles that the model uses for computation. Furthermore, Turing machines are complete and therefore can do any computation that a human can. Still, there seems to be a need for a less deterministic model of the Turing machine. Introducing Putnam's probabilistic automaton. The notion of probabilistic automaton is defined similarly to a Turing machine, except that transitions between states are allowed to be with various probabilities rather than being deterministic. Of course, the Turing machine is simply a special kind of probabilistic automaton, one with a transition probabilities 0 and 1. I shall assume the notion of a probabilistic automaton has been generalized to allow for sensory paths and motor outputs. That is, the machine table specifies for every possible combination of a state and a complete set of sensory inputs an instruction which determines the probability of the next state and also the probabilities of motor outputs. I don't know if you could tell, but that was not me. That was Putnam. Non-determinism versus determinism. Basic theory and theorems will come from Theory of Computation by Sipser. I've been in love with Sipser my entire time on Earth, ever since I found him. He probably hates me, but I love him. A non-deterministic Turing machine is enhanced from a deterministic Turing machine because at any point in a computation, the machine may proceed according to several possibilities, while a deterministic Turing machine is limited to one possible behavior dependent on current state and input character being processed. How non-determinism succeeds while other models fail. Problem 1. Searle's Chinese room and the concept of understanding. Introduce the argument. State how non-determinism is based on the machine being able to understand the problem well enough to be able to choose the right answer and verify it. Therefore, non-determinism encodes understanding into a machine model as the machine has to decide the correct actions based on state. Problem 2. The complexity of the mental. In computational complexity, we break up how hard a problem is by its complexity. Problems form complexity classes. Two complexity classes that are quite important to how we process information are P and NP. You knew he was going to bring it up. P is comprised of the set of problems that can be solved in time polynomial to input length. NP is comprised of the set of problems that can be verified in time polynomial to input length. In other words, if you had a solution to the problem, you could verify that it was correct in polynomial time to input length of the problem. NP are the set of problems that can be solved in non-deterministic polynomial time because a non-deterministic machine could solve NP problems by guessing the right solution and then verifying that it was correct. Introducing problem from the article above. So this is a quote from another white guy. Brains learn much better than computers. This has been discussed in a number of reviews on artificial intelligence, pattern recognitions, and neural networks. But why? Is there a fundamental reason behind computers being slow learners? Often slow learners learning is discussed in terms of computational complexity, which is usually measured by the number of operations. The mind seems to be able to solve lots of problems in NP, writing mathematical proofs, 3-map coloring, image recognition, interlinear programming, suggesting that we have capacities similar to a non-deterministic Turing machine. Not only does that was the end of the sentence. Not only does accepting the non-deterministic model for minds fix these problems with other models, with it comes other special characteristics. All non-deterministic Turing machines can be expressed by deterministic Turing machines, even though it is theorized non-deterministic Turing machines can do more faster. Therefore, it seems possible that we should be able to create deterministic Turing machines which mimic non-determined behaviors, which explains why AIs can fool humans. It is not known whether NP equals P or NP is not equal to P. In fact, there's $1 million prize for a person that can prove it either way. Therefore, even though there's not currently a realistic implementation of a non-deterministic machine, it does not mean that it's not possible. That's basically Kurt saying, and as close a way as I don't know yet, definitively, but P is probably equal to NP. And your non-determinism is probably an illusion, but it still probably fits the model, and you can do it deterministically. So computer is computationally equivalent to the human mind. That's what I was trying to say there, but in a nice way. Now I would just tell the truth, but he was being a people pleaser in there. That's why I don't talk to people anymore, because I'm not people pleaser anymore. Conclude from here that the non-deterministic Turing machine is the best computational model for the mind, because the machine must understand the problem in order to decide the best route to take in solving the problem, and the computational complexity of non-deterministic Turing machines seems comparable to the mind. Furthermore, while it would be difficult to implement in reality on a system lacking a priori sentience, it is not physically impossible. Is our sentience a priori? 1. I'm not sure. 2, I mean, you had that girl that grew up chained to a bed and never learned human language. I don't know how sentient she was. If we would call her, give her personhood. They ask you that in IB. Of course, I give her personhood because I give my cat personhood. But would everyone give her personhood? You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you don't. Girl who didn't have language. Genie. It's Genie. Anyway, is language what makes us sentient? It's definitely what makes us able to express things outside of present reality, build our paradigms as fast as we do. It's definitely language.